Hello everybody, it's Colonel Steve Akley, and I'm here at my place, the ABV Barrel Shop. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, actually the St. Louis suburb of Arnold, but if you're ever in the area, maybe you're going to this area to visit some friends, family, just cutting through, whatever the reason is, just jump on Highway 55 and come by and see us in Arnold, Missouri, that St. Louis suburb. We have a very unique business model, as you saw in Brewzle's video, and I'm doing this video today specifically to address all those Brewzle fans that have come over from seeing that video and subscribed to my channel. And we're going to talk about the impact of that video on my business. We'll talk about the man himself. And this is all pretty relatively soon after this happened. So this video dropped. It was shot probably several months ago, probably in June of this year. I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking as I remember back, it was like in June. I happened to be here that day. I'm not always here every day, but I happened to be here that day. Brewzle comes walking in and I was sitting at my desk and making a video. And that gets released on Friday. So Friday the 30th of August. And we are open because that's a holiday weekend. We're open Friday and Saturday. So we're going to talk a little bit about the impact on those 2 days. We're open 7 days a week, but when it comes time for the holidays, we find that we're not that busy. We might have been busy this whole weekend based on the Brewzle impact that we didn't know we were going to get because we didn't know the video was coming out. But I'll talk about the impact on Friday and Saturday. It's Tuesday, September 3rd as I record this. Not the date it's getting released, but as I record this. And it's before the store opens. I'm here early in the morning, got some things cleaned up, writing some checks, doing the business owner type of things, and then we'll be open for business in a few hours. So again, I want to welcome everybody and thank you for coming over here and checking out what we're all about. I think it's pretty cool that Brewzle comes in, does a video, and also I love his approach, the fact that he actually allowed the plugs for my businesses to go in there and talk about some of the things I'm doing in the world of bourbon media. And it leads a lot of people to coming over here. And of course, I didn't know Brewzle or TJ. I think we're going to go with the Brewzle for this because that's the social media moniker that most people know him by. So Brewzle, I had no idea who he was. I had just heard of him probably in March because he did a video on my friend Seth Detling. So I known Seth for a while. He's been on my show, The Bourbon Show. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video so you can listen to that if you want to hear more about his life and how he got in the business and all that kind of stuff. So the first time I ever even hear of Brewzle is for that. He was calling me. We had done a barrel pick and we were talking about things and just shooting the breeze. And he says, we got shot for this video. And then he talked about the impact that it had on him. Now, I didn't think a whole lot about it. I did watch parts of the video. I wanted to kind of see how he was depicted. I wanted to see if they showed how remote his place was because I've been there myself. And I thought it was pretty good. I didn't watch the whole thing, so I didn't know Brewzle. Leads me to call him Brewzy, by the way, which that's an accident. I apologize for that. I wasn't trying to, make a statement or anything like that or downplay him or anything. I really didn't know him, and I had to remember back to that video. I didn't recognize him when he came in. Again, I didn't know what he looked like. I probably saw him in the clips on the social media. And then once you watch a video on YouTube, and again, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched some of it, you start getting some suggested videos. And of course, he's very popular, and that ends up showing up in your feed. But I never watched any of the other videos, so I didn't know kind of really what he was all about. Some people maybe, why would you do that? You say you own a media company. Well, I don't watch other people's stuff. I don't listen to other people's podcasts. I always feel like I don't want anybody to ever think like I'm cheating or stealing other people's stuff or incorporating what they're doing into what I'm doing. I just like to do my own thing. I always figure if I can create good content, eventually people will find it. And I don't know that I'm always, that hugely successful or anything, but I don't really care about that. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be a super guy. I've got a great retirement lined out. I've got a great income through my companies. This stuff is just fun for me. So I'm not really, all about everything and being the best I can possibly be on social media, on channels like YouTube and all that. But I'm trying. I'd like to be. I create this stuff because I like it. I want people to see it, of course. So at the end of the day, like anybody else, I want people to watch what I'm doing. I'm not making it just for myself here. So, but his community has come over. They've made a lot of comments on my videos and stuff like that, which is very cool. And they seem like really nice people. And for the most part, the comments on his video itself, again, I forget how many downloads it has now, the video that I was featured in, but it's a lot. And way more than anything that I've ever gotten. Other than I did have one video over 100,000. I'll put a link to that in here too. Kind of a fun one to watch. My only kind of success on the YouTube platform was that one. My buddy is featured in that video, and we're at Jack Daniel's Distillery, and I don't know, some of the contents are brutal, comments I mean, and that's just things in general, right? And that's what you find. People can be just mean on social media, but I found for the most part in the comments that I saw in the Brewzle video I was in were pretty nice. And I think that's a good thing. I think we can all be nice. Why do we have to be mean to one another? I'm not that way. I'm not going to get in fights with people on the internet. And even the things that I thought weren't quite accurate or weren't quite nice on those comments, I'm not going to respond to them because I don't want to get in a fight on social media. I don't think anybody wins out of those things. I think, I'll be honest, whoever the fighting parties are, both ultimately look like idiots. Even if there's one person that's in the right, one person's in the wrong, you can kind of see it one-sided sometimes. But I think both end up looking bad because nothing ever gets resolved. There's never been a social media argument where at the end of it, both people are like, oh, I learned something from this, and you're right, and I was kind of wrong, or I was totally wrong, or we're both kind of right, and here's what. Nothing's ever figured out other than just yelling at one another on social media. So I don't get into that stuff. It's not who I am. And it looks like Brewzle isn't that way either. He's not participating in any of those things and stuff like that. So again, I think he's developed a great community, which I have a lot of respect for that. I've got a lot of respect for anybody who can build up a business. He's got a small business, whether you want to think about that or not. You just want to think of him as a social media influencer or someone that's in the bourbon industry. However you think of Brewzle, I think we have to have a lot of respect for what he's done because it's not easy. There's a lot of people trying to do what he's doing. There's a lot of people trying to do what I'm doing, and anybody who can get success and kind of carve their own little place in the bourbon world, I think we have to give a hats off to them and say a great job. And I think he's done a great job and cultivated it via good people. And I think that's important too. I wouldn't want to have a big Facebook group where everyone's getting in those fights and someone asks a question because they're new or something like that, everybody just attacks them. Or someone, if you ask a question because you don't know and everyone wants to tell you what an idiot you are and stuff like that, that's all dumb. So I don't like any of that. And again, I don't think that looks like what his audience is at all. So hats off. It's a good job by him. And and good job to you guys too, that the audience that's found him and hopefully enjoying his stuff, and hopefully you can enjoy some of the stuff that I do. And we'll talk about my journey in this video. And I've also got a special offer we'll put at the end, but I'll also put a link in the description where you can jump right to that if you're interested in the offer for Brewzle fans, which I think is a pretty cool thing. I think I've got a pretty nice little offer for those folks who want to kind of get more involved and see what I'm all about. So the impact on this. What is the impact on this? Again, we're talking about literally business days just 2 days ago. Actual days, we're talking about 5 days ago at this point now. But what is the impact on social media, on us, and things like that? So I'll tell you a couple things. So the immediate impact is I start seeing people come over to my channel, start subscribing. I've been at this YouTube thing for a little while now, kind of half-hearted in some points, trying hard at others. Kind of felt like I've kind of found a little bit of a groove here recently, probably in the last year. I've been releasing mostly shorts, but then in the last, 4 or 5 months, I started, maybe less than that, maybe 3 months. I started doing videos on Fridays, kind of more full-length things where I talk and stuff like that. And it's been, like I said, it's kind of been all over the place. Where I started with, initially on YouTube, was just releasing videos of events that I did during COVID. I have this media company that a lot of my revenue streams went away, so I was doing a lot of tastings online and stuff like that. Can't do that stuff anymore. Now that I have a liquor store, not allowed to do that, and I won't do that. I'm not hinting that I'm doing it. I'm not doing it at all. But back when I used to do those, we would record those and put those out where people missed it. Because sometimes I would always say life happens. You sign up for this event, you got the whiskey, but then you don't get to taste with the group. I'd always put it out online where people could watch it. And those are fun to watch because a lot of people from the industry were there and things like that. So that content is worth keeping, and I'll continue to have it out there. But then I started trying to make videos again, no success or anything like that. And it took me a long time, probably took me 3 years to, doing content and things like that to get to 1,000 subscribers. Everybody knows 1,000's the big mark. You can become monetized and you're kind of at least taken somewhat seriously by that point by YouTube. Once you can get 1,000 subscribers. So I surpassed that mark. It took me 3 years to do it. Then it took me another year to get to 2,000. So from 1,000 to 2,000 took a year, and I actually did that just like a week ago. I've still got the little award that YouTube gives you on your dashboard, and right now they haven't even changed it yet because in 3 days, I went from 2,000 to 3,000. So 3 years, 1 year, 3 days. So that gets you from each of the thousands that I've got there. And I guess eventually I'll get the little 3,000. It takes YouTube a while to get that trophy printed up. I guess I don't know why it seems like it'd be an automated thing, but maybe they're checking to see if I dip under that. I have to have it long enough where I stay at 3,000, where they'll actually put I'm a 3,000 subscriber. And again, it's nothing for the public. It just goes in your dashboard when you're looking at how you were doing and stuff like that. But and I'll show you what that 2,000 looks like in the video here. So the impact on that was huge. I mean, going from a channel that has 2,000 subscribers to 3,000 in a matter of days, amazing. And again, a lot of comments and interactive. That's good too. That's good for the channel in general. And a lot of that comes from that Brewzle video. So, again, thank Brewzle for that. Impact on the store. So again, we were just open for 2 days since we did this video. We were open on Friday, the day it came out. And on Saturday, I wasn't here. I was on a trip in West Virginia. My daughter lives there. So my wife and I went to West Virginia to go visit her and spend a weekend hanging out with her. So again, anticipating it's not going to be busy. Turns out it's really busy. At least 20 people, is my understanding, in those 2 days were from Brewzle. They identify themselves as Brewzle fans. There could be more than that don't say they're that. I mean, we get every time we're open, every day we're open, we're getting new people that come in here that we don't know how they found us. We try to ask and stuff like that. And usually we have a conversation with people. A lot of times we'll find out whether it's just social media or saw an article about us, or in this case, saw the Brewzle video. So we try to find out those things, but we don't always know for sure. That's contingent on them telling us that. So, but we do know about 20 people, and you think, wow, that's not a lot. He's got like 500,000 subscribers. I think that's a lot. In 2 days, we're not a high volume store. We're not one of the big nationwide box retailers here. We're low volume. We're about providing an experience. We are a very niche store. So if we can get 30 people here on a day, we're doing pretty good. And on a weekend, it can bump up. But again, summer tends to be a little bit slower for us anyway, and especially a weekend like that. People are having the one last summer hurrah, so they're going to the lake, they're on vacation, they're hanging out with their kids because their kids are going to be going back to school and all that kind of stuff, or whatever it is. It's kind of the one last summer hurrah, even though we still have a few weeks of summer left. It's like the one last big thing. A lot of pools get closed after the state and all that kind of stuff. So people are out having fun and not necessarily coming to see us. So having 20 people over the course of 2 days say, hey, I saw the Brewzle video and I'm in here, I want to learn what you're all about, and buying bottles, that's huge for us. So that was really big, and we'll see what impact this is. But again, it's evergreen. That video goes out there forever. So I'm anticipating people will continue to discover us through the days, weeks, months, and years from that video. So that's a really neat component of that. Another thing is we have one of those counters, those Smirl counters, SMIIRL. That's the name. I guess we got about 40 new likes. So it tracks our Facebook likes. So I guess about 40 people had liked it. And again, there's no way to connect where they came from or anything like that. But I think that's a pretty good amount of activity. We have 48 likes now, actually. And I realize that those probably mostly came from Brewzle because we've been open 2 years, and that's 40 in a couple days. That is quite a bit. So I would assume that comes from there. So that's the impact of Brewzle. Long term, we'll see what it yields. I think it can only be a positive. I don't think there's any way that's bad. I would say even if we get nothing more than what happened right there, that ends up being a very positive thing for us. Also want to talk a little bit about what was the experience like. What was it like having Brewzle be here? How does that work? Some of you might not even know how his videos work. You just watch his content and enjoy that. So I wanted to give you some insight on that. I also want to talk about the man himself. What's he like? Because again, I know he has a huge audience, and there's probably many of you that have met him through running into him on the road, or you know him, or you live close to him, or randomly you've seen him at stores, whatever it is. But there's probably a lot more of you that have not seen him than have. So I want to talk a little bit about the man himself, because people that are bourbon media people sometimes can be pretty snooty because they think they're pretty cool, right? They're having people watch their stuff. They're a big deal. They get sent free items from distilleries and stuff, free bottles. They start reading their own press releases thinking that they're pretty cool. And so I want to talk about Brewzle and what do I think about him. And I'll tell you, I always shoot from the truth. I always tell you the truth. And, I tend to be a guy, though, I will say this. If things are negative, I don't talk about it. Again, I would just rather not talk about Brewzle if he came in here as a tool. So that'll give you some insight where we're going to follow this, but we'll get to that in just a second. The experience itself, how does it work? Does he touch base with you and say, hey, I'm getting ready to come in, I'll be here between these hours and stuff like that? No. No. I had no idea he was coming in, no clue. He didn't walk in the store and say, hey, I'm going to be filming in here. Is that okay? Doesn't do any of that. How I meet Brewzle for the first time is the door opens, and I'm sitting at my desk as he walks into the back of the store where he's coming in the front, and I'm sitting there working on some things, always working on something if no one's in the store. He was the only one in the store at that time. Again, we're not a high volume store. If you come in here, there's 15 people in here. That's crazy for us. So he comes in, nobody's in here, and he's filming. He doesn't introduce himself or anything like that, as you saw in the video. It just starts talking. And so I don't even know technically what's going on. I don't know who the man is. I don't know what he's filming. I have no idea what's happening. But that's how that works. That's not the first time a social media person has come in here and with the camera rolling and started filming. That's just how they do it. So you can either like that and embrace it, or you can get mad about it, or whatever it is. I felt good about it. I was glad I was here that day, and I was glad that it came in on a good day where the store wasn't a wreck or anything like that. You never know what's going to happen. I came into a wreck today because it was so busy. Darren worked here by himself all weekend, and the store looked a little rough. So I've been working on getting that cleaned up a little bit here before we get things going today. And that stuff just happens. Darren does a great job, but he's just busy. So, but Brewzle came in, the store looked good, talked to us, asked great questions and stuff like that. And then as he starts talking about Detling, that's when I realized that's the guy who did that video, and that's where I accidentally called him Brewzy, because I didn't remember his name or anything like that. I kind of remembered it, I guess. So he introduces himself, and he talked, and so I don't know anything about it coming in. I don't know what's going on as it's happening, and that would come a little bit later. So kind of after the cameras get turned off and stuff like that, then he tells you a little bit about it. But so he shops, and then he really does buy stuff. So the bottle that you saw him get, the Dark Arts bottle, he actually had tasted it and bought it. So he thought that was worth him getting. And so he's shopping the store. He's not getting free product or anything like that from the stores, at least not at our store. I would assume that that's the same everywhere. When you just come in unannounced, you're going to pay for what you get. It's not free or anything like that. And he didn't ask for that. To his credit, I'm not saying he didn't ask for anything like that. He just came in. He was just a customer. And, and then we got to talking. Some of that conversation was on the air. The segment, of course, was longer than that, too. So some of the things get cut out and things like that. But for the most part, you got a pretty good look at what his visit was like. And he ultimately does turn off the camera at some point when he's checking out and all that. And we'd have a little bit of a conversation. I get to know who he is a little bit. And I'll tell you what, I think he's a great guy. He's a really nice guy, for sure. And he seems to be, I think everything about what you see is legitimate. A lot of people curate things for social media. What can I do to get more likes and stuff like that? He's not coming in and saying, hey, I need to find this bottle, or, and he doesn't do any of that. He just walks in. Whatever the experience is, the experience is. So that's true. Also, I think that he's a good guy. I think he comes across as a good guy, but that doesn't mean people are really good once you start talking to him and things like that. I think he's a nice dude. I think what you're seeing on the camera is Brewzle, is TJ. So I do think that that's the true guy. So I think that's a pretty cool thing. And hopefully the people that enjoy his content like hearing that, because you always want people just to be real, right? There's no need to be a tool or anything like that. There's no need to be mean to people or, just be a big head because you do some cool things. You don't need to do that at all. So that was my experience, and that's the man himself. And I think overall, I walked away when that thing was done saying, yeah, that's a good dude. I can't wait for it to see for it to come out. He told it would take a couple months, and that's what it did. Apparently it gets released on his Patreon thing a couple days ahead of time. I did have a couple people show up ahead of time saying that's on his Patreon. I didn't know if that then comes to the free or anything like that. I don't know how it worked. And then, it took a couple more days, and then it was out released on the free video on Friday, the 30th of August. So there you go. That's a little bit about that. I also want to talk a little bit about myself, because so many of you are new to me. You don't know who I am or anything like that. I started in the industry. I started as a writer after my father passed away in 2012. I started writing, not about bourbon or anything like that. Ultimately, I would write about bourbon. Very little success at first. And then I wrote a book. I wrote this book about bourbon. Then I got this idea to ask the distilleries for their cocktail menus. It comes out a book called Bourbon Mixology. Ends up being Bourbon Mixology Volume 1. After that comes out, I thought the cocktail idea is kind of good. What if I had called bourbon bars and asked them to share their signature bourbon cocktail? So I called and emailed 50 different bourbon bars. And I put that out in like October of, I don't know, it's 6 or 7 years ago now. I put it out quite a bit ago, and I thought this would be good for the holidays, but I was already had moved on to other things. And the next thing you know, it takes off. It ends up being like the number 2 ranked thing. If you searched bourbon on Amazon that particular year, it was the number 2 ranked thing that was positioned out there. So that book just takes off. It's been a great seller for me. It continues to be a great seller. I still have it out there. It's something that's available, and it's all these cool bars. And I end up getting to know some of the people featured in the book years later, which is kind of a neat thing for sure. So started out as a writer, then decided the next thing I wanted to do was write for magazines and blogs and all that kind of stuff. I would write for people, and I decided I would contact 100 different ones, and I'll probably have, because I have this successful book, I'll probably get 30 writing gigs or something like that, and then I could just be a writer. That'd be pretty cool. I got 0 responses. I mean, not even like, well, I had 3 that's like, no, thank you. I had 0. It's like I didn't even send them. It's like I just wasted my time. No one cared. No one responded back at all. Literally, it didn't happen. So what I decided to do was create my own thing. So I created this newsletter called Bourbon Zeppelin. And I recruited people that were interested in writing. No one gets paid for Bourbon Zeppelin. It's a free publication. No one gets paid. But people that are passionate about it and want a forum, a creative outlet in the world of bourbon to be able to write, I said I wanted something like that because I wanted to write about bourbon. I wanted to. It was one of my passions to do some research, history, write articles and stuff like that. And if people that have these positions available won't even talk to me, how can you ever get a job doing that? So I came up with this format, and I've got some writers that have been with me for the whole run. We started that in 2016. I've got some writers that have been with me the whole time, and then others have come and gone and stuff like that. Others have gone on to some great things. Some continue just to write for us, and it's cool. No matter what happens, it's a cool publication. It comes out twice a month, Bourbon Zeppelin. Also do a thing called Quick Bourbon Notes. It's 3 articles, comes out on a Friday, and those are just 3 things that are happening in the bourbon industry. Very popular publication, so that's out there. I also have 2 podcasts. Brewzle talked about those in his video. I've got the Bourbon Daily, comes out every day. We are at almost 3,000 shows for that particular, by far the number 1 biggest podcast when it comes to episodes released and content. And that's also what I have with the ABV Network, my company. We are by far the biggest bourbon media company. Do we have the most downloads, the most published articles, stuff like that? Yeah, we have the most published articles. We have the most downloads as well because of the content. I mean, it's just the volume of content that we have is amazing. Are we the biggest at anything that we do? No, we don't have the biggest email publication article. I don't have the biggest email newsletter. I don't have the biggest bourbon podcast. I don't have the biggest YouTube channel. But we do a lot of that stuff. We do so many things that it ends up adding up to be a lot. Another thing that, again, I haven't necessarily found success in, but I don't care about that. I make full-length documentaries. I have a business partner on that venture called Bo Cumberland. He's a great filmmaker. I've got Susie Cousins, who does music, so she does all of our music independently. And we make some of the best films that are out there. I think we make the best films. Other people will say, documentaries that they like. And before I started making movies, I'd watch, other documentaries. I was into it, and I wouldn't think they're very good. People were saying how great they were, and I'd be like, so that whole segment that took 10 minutes to go over the beginnings of what is a bourbon, that to you is good. To me, that's a waste of time. Anybody that's going to watch that is going to be a fervent bourbon fan. People are going to watch a bourbon documentary. That bourbon isn't just something that they're like, I've had a glass of bourbon one time. I wonder what that's all about. They don't watch that stuff. No one cares about that. Who watches that stuff? People who watch this video here, people who watch video, so people who listen to podcasts, people who want to know everything there is to know about bourbon. That's who's watching documentaries, and that's who I figure our audience is, and that's what we make them for. Have we had a lot of success? Not necessarily. When you're talking about commercial success, we've always broken even at least, and I think that's a good thing. If you can break even in the movie business, I think you're doing pretty darn good, and I think that's what we've been able to do. Are we rolling in the bucks from that? No. But you know what? I think even if we can just continue to do that, as long as we keep making movies, because I think we've made some important ones. And, are they important right now? I don't know. But are they important 100 years from now when someone's wanting to see what was this bourbon boom all about? And they want to see the people interviewed from the bourbon industry? Yeah, I think it might be important. So many of the stuff I do, At 56 years old, I am smart enough to realize there's legacy tied to some of these things, and I think they're important for that reason. And I think that down the road, people may want to watch these things and get educated about what was happening with bourbon. So I've done 5 full-length films. So the first one was called Kindred Spirits. It's the story of Kentucky craft bourbon. Everybody talks, when they talk about a bourbon documentary, they're talking about the big guys, the Jim Beams of the world, the Heaven Hills, Four Roses, all that kind of stuff. We focused on 7 stories of craft distilleries and allowed those individuals to tell those stories. It's a fun film. It was my kickoff into the world of bourbon documentaries. The next one we did was called Blending is Trending, and that got into the fact I realized that at that time that there was people starting to do blended bourbons, and blending was becoming a thing. It kind of bubbled up from craft, and it was becoming a thing that the big guys were doing more of too. And you say, well, blended whiskey's been around forever. Well, kind of. I mean, when you're talking about blends, they weren't really a thing until Prohibition. Then they became a big thing during Prohibition and after Prohibition. That's where all the growth was. Again, we're talking about being short on whiskey stocks. How do you extend what you have? Well, you blend it. You blend it with neutral grain spirits. You try to get the most out of what you have left. And blended whiskey becomes a huge thing after Prohibition. It becomes the flavor profile people are looking for. But then over time, the industry gets greedy and they put more and more of those neutral grain spirits in there. And next thing you know, it kind of crashes and burns, and blending becomes a bad name. Fast forward to the bourbon boom. And craft distilleries looking to make a difference, they start blending whiskey and stuff like that. And then the next thing you know, once they're doing it, that's kind of like the minor leagues. That's the test trial for many of the big distilleries. They get into it as well. And now some of the big distilleries are doing some of the best things out there. And we focus on some of the big distilleries in there. So Jackie Zykan's in that movie. Al Young is in there, that movie for the last time. Brent Elliott is in that movie. Freddie No does a blend for us on camera, which is pretty cool. You see it in real time. There's no cuts on that. There's not take 2 and we put it all together. Literally, that is start the camera and let it roll until he's done, and then we get to taste it. It's fantastic. So definitely check out Blending is Trending. After that, I did a movie called Get Jerry Dalton in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. It is what it is. Exactly what it sounds like, that's what it is. Jerry Dalton was not in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. He's the only Beam master distiller, not from the Beam family, and he's the only master distiller to ever serve that company that wasn't in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. I thought that was a big mistake on the part of the industry and a part of Beam for not focusing on him to get him in there. And I made a movie about it. And guess what? The right people saw it. And lo and behold, he made it. Jerry Dalton is in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame today, which is pretty cool. That movie's out there on YouTube. I'll put links to all this stuff. That one's out there for free on YouTube. The other ones are on Amazon, as are the last 2 I'm going to talk about here. Colorado Whiskey. That movie is about the whiskey scene in Colorado. I kind of wanted to tell the stories of craft distilleries in Colorado and what they're doing, how they have their own unique scene and what's different about them than Kentucky, and what are some of the things that are the same. What things tie over from the bourbon world? What things are unique to Colorado. Sorry about that. Someone was just tapping on the door there. I'm at the store. We're not open, but they just walked by and we're saying hi. So nothing going on there. Then I've got the latest one is called St. Louis Whiskey. Check that one out. And that is a very cool movie that focuses on the city that I live in and talks about our great history in the whiskey business and stuff like that. And I think that one is definitely worth seeing because you see some of the distillers, you hear some of the history that we have going on. And yes, and one of the things in there that's very touching is my business partner, who I didn't talk about, that started this place with me, a guy I couldn't have done this without, Jim Fosnot, unfortunately passed away this year, May 6th of 2024. And everything that you see here, the wall behind me, the bar that you can just kind of see right here, he built all this stuff. As you come in the store, the cash register bag and all that kind of stuff. I always knock these over. We have these things for the water here, and I knock them over almost on every video now. It's kind of, maybe it's part of my signature moves. I knock those over at some point. I get animated, and then they're here, and just knock them. There's a little barrel here that's next to me, and I knock them right off that. They're not on the bar itself. So I knock, and then a couple other things that I got going on besides the media stuff, and I'll put links to all those in there. I have the Crew Club, which is the first kind of club that I know of that was started for bourbon fans, by bourbon fans, and we've been going with that since 2017. And it's people that want to be involved in the bourbon business. We have a great Facebook group. It's a private group, and we do a lot of travel and stuff like that. We go to distilleries, utilize my contacts to go behind the scenes stuff. I created a festival earlier this year called Bourbon Palooza. again, the ultimate behind the scenes experience. It's a series of events where we get to go in and see some things that you don't get to see without having someone who has contacts in the bourbon industry. So we did one of those this year in Bardstown. We've got one coming up in St. Louis. I have some space available to that. Reach out to me if you're interested in coming to Bourbon Palooza, St. Louis. Got a lot of great, cool behind-the-scenes stuff that you can get in on with that. And then, of course, I've got the shop here. And that was focused in the Brewzle video. Been going with that since July of 2022. And yeah, we are the most unique store in the whiskey industry. I think in American whiskey, we have the most unique store, focused on, again, content, on education, on tasting, and then creating those unique barrel experiences. And we think that we've got the best whiskey in the world right here, and we backed it up by saying, here, try it before you buy it. Look behind me. All those bottles are open. Those are the ones that we have for sale here, and you can taste them before you buy them. And it's just the ultimate experience for a true whiskey fan. Also, of course, the Barrel Shop Syndicate, that's our in-store class. If you are, particularly if you're local, works out really well because we do a lot of events and things like that. If you're really into barrel picks, you get invited on all of our barrel picks. And of course, you don't necessarily get to go on every one, but and it just depends. When we travel, when we're going to Kentucky, like we got Kentucky coming up, we ask, who wants to go? And most people, because it's during the week, don't say they want to go, even though it's free to go, and they do have to pay their travel and stuff like that. Most people don't go, so we end up taking whoever says, yes, I want to go. So there's plenty of opportunities to do barrel picks if that's something you're interested in. Of course, I'm involved on social media. I've got a lot of different things out there going on. And I try to, have the Bourbon Daily, social media, and the Bourbon Show social media, and Bourbon Zeppelin, and my movies all should have their own social media. I'm one person. So basically, I figured over time, I'll just make it myself, just Steve Akley. And that's where I'm at on all social media, on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, Steve Akley. Just look at that. And other than the ABV Barrel Shop, I'd say that one has its own unique social media. Again, I'm the one doing it, but it is unique because we're a store. We're a brick and mortar location, so we have to have its own social media. The rest of the stuff, though, I figure people can figure out what I'm doing in the movie world or podcast or anything like that via my channels for sure. Special offer. I do have a special offer for Brewzle fans. I talked about the ABV Network Crew Club. It costs $48 per year. For people from that are coming over from Brewzle. If you want to join the crew club, guess what you can do it for? Free. So I was trying to get my email here and I kept doing the wrong one. So it is abvsales@abvnetwork.com. So send me an email and it's going to be on the screen, abvsales@abvnetwork.com. I've got a lot of different emails, so you can see how this could happen. So abvsales@abvnetwork.com. Send me an email. Tell me your name. Tell me your address, because we will send out a card that gets you some discounts and deals and stuff like that at places. And you will be in the crew club for the next, whatever it is from now, 10 months from now. You get it for free. And the renewal time is the same for everybody. It's on July 1st. So in June, we'll start marketing. Hey, if you want to re-up, it's going to be $48. You can decide at that point. It doesn't cost you anything to get in on that. I'll sign you up for some of our emails. So you'll get in on Bourbon Zeppelin, quick bourbon notes, the store emails. You'll get in on those. And again, you can see if you like this, if it's right for you. If it is, great. You can join and you can continue to stay involved. You can go on the trips and stuff like that. All the Bourbon Palooza stuff that we do. We do have that website too, bourbonpalooza.com, where we have what events we're doing and stuff like that. So there's a lot that's going on, and you get involved in the private Facebook groups, which is pretty cool. So again, try it. Send me an email and I'll sign you up for free, and you don't know anything. If at the end of the year, it's like, I don't see the value of this, it's not for me, or I didn't think it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, you don't have to pay the next year, and you're out. You don't owe anything for that first year we're involved. So it is completely a free offer. So again, I think that to try to create some goodwill between the two channels, Brewzle and ABV Network, ABV Barrel Shop, my stuff. Love to have you guys involved and love to give you the opportunity to see what we're all about. I know you're coming in blind, you don't know me. It's like try before you buy. It's like those bottles we have back here. You can try before you buy with the ABV Network Crew Club. So there you go. So that's it for me. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Check out the description here. I'm going to put links to all this stuff in one place. I'm going to go more in depth than I ever have, so you've got all that stuff. So check it out. Thanks for listening to me. And again, thanks for giving us a chance here. Hopefully you like what we're doing. I'm Steve Akley, and my companies are the ABV Network and the ABV Barrel Shop. through June 30th of next year. Send me an email right now. Tell me that, and it's to ABV sales at ABV Barrel Shop. No, that's not it at all. That wouldn't even work. Don't try that. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to start again. All right, I said the wrong email there. Here's what it actually is. It is ABV Network. Damn it!